I found my daily driver mousepad, and it's not the Artisan Raiden. I was reviewing a couple of mousepads a couple of months ago, and the comments I kept getting was, check out the Artisan Raiden, it's endgame, it's so nice, it's smooth and everything. Look, the Artisan Raiden is a brilliant mousepad. I got an extra large one with, the second version that fixed everything. It's beautiful. It's ultra soft, it's thick, it's comfortable. The Porum base doesn't move anywhere. It feels like silk on your skin. It's smooth and buttery, but it just doesn't fit my playstyle. I actually felt like my aim was doing worse than ever during that period of time in which I was switching mousepads. I come from a QCK, which was a very slow mousepad, and switching to a Artisan high-end, switching to the AimLab mousepad, the Skypad, and then the Artisan Raiden, which I brought with me to London, by the way, was just a straight up bad experience, and I was just not playing all that well. And even though I was playing a really low sensitivity, I was still struggling to just aim right. Something felt quite off. And then I realized, well, that's because for the entirety of my life, I had played on pretty slow mousepads. Like, I played on a very dirty MM200 for like a good 5 years, and then for the next 2 to 3 years after that, I played on the QCK XXL Desmat. So it just made sense that the moment I switched to fast mousepads, I would struggle, and that there was no point trying to get used to something that was faster. That, plus the fact that I had to increase my sensitivity even more, which meant a fast mousepad would make it even harder to get used to. And the reason I have had to improve and increase my sensitivity recently was because now I am living in student accommodation, a uni dorm, a very small room with a very small desk that doesn't really give me much space to move my arm and flick. So I actually have to increase my sensitivity, if not I absolutely will have no space to game. So in that situation, I was like, maybe this Artisan Raiden stuff wasn't the right idea. And while I absolutely love the Artisan Raiden, and objectively it is a phenomenal mousepad, smooth, slippery, comfortable, thick, soft, brilliant, awesome to use, in practice, it just wasn't the right fit if all I wanted to do was aim better, which is really all I want to do. So I went hunting to see what was a good in-between that was faster than a QCK, but not so fast that it was hard to get used to. And I stumbled across the Zowie GSR. I tried it in the shop one day and I felt it, and I immediately went, oh yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. After a couple of weeks of use, I'm glad to report, it has served me exactly how I needed it to serve me, and it's performed brilliantly for me. The Zowie GSR is very interesting of a mousepad. So it's all reliable. It's like a mousepad that a lot of people do use. It's widely recommended. It's got nice stitched edges, it's a nice, clean, simple black design, and it feels really good. What's interesting about the GSR for me though, is that it's got very little static friction, which means very little friction to actually stop the mouse, very little friction to start the mouse as well. So pros and cons. But it also has like a pretty high glide friction. So while it's not hard to start moving on this mousepad, it actually does feel pretty rough and slow when you're moving the mouse. So you don't actually need all that much static friction to stop your mouse, since your mouse never ever moves that quickly. You might think that that's a bad thing, and if you're gaming on really low sensitivity, that probably is, because you want to have high glide so that you can flick really quickly. But now that I've moved to a higher sensitivity due to space constraints, this higher moving friction, like this higher glide friction, just feels perfect for controlling exactly how much I'm moving my mouse, and I've aimed better than I've ever had with this high sensitivity and this mousepad, which is insane. I never thought in 100 years that I would actually get used to high sensitivity, even though I had no choice but to get used to it due to my space constraints. But with the GSR, it just feels pretty effortless. After like a day of practicing on the range and deathmatch and stuff like that, I got used to my high sense pretty quick, and now I'm aiming better than I've ever had in my life. So I guess the moral of the story and the moral of all that at the end of the day then is get a mousepad that fits your needs. Okay, it's not always about having lower friction, though on paper it sounds like that's what you need. Sometimes what you need is actually more friction. Sometimes what you need is something that fits you better, that fits your needs better, that fits your preferences better. And at the end of the day, when it comes to mousepads, a mousepad can be objectively better than the other, but it's more important that it's a better subjective fit for you than anything else. Hope that was interesting or helpful. Like and subscribe.